Hey, what's going on? Welcome back, everybody. My name is Jeremy. Say thank you for spending some of your valuable time here with me today. Appreciate everybody out there. Uh, this is going to be an interesting show. I've got some stuff that have really been kind of weighing on my mind and everything else here lately. Just a lot of it has to do with some stuff in the past, and a lot of it has to do with some stuff just real recent. So kind of what I'll start with is, I was lucky enough to get registered for a online conference that was just put on here last week through Fire Inside page. Uh, I think they called it Unlock Your Culture Conference, and still working my way through it. There's, I think, 16 instructors, and each of them had about an hour and a half each. And I was very busy at home when all this was going down outside. So I'm basically just trying to catch up through the recordings that they sent out afterwards. So almost halfway through, and have really heard some good stuff, and excited to hear what the rest of the people, the speakers have to say as well. So from that, Ben Martin is one of the people that had a spot in that, and I've never taken one of Ben's classes, but I've heard him on several podcasts before, and I've really enjoyed what he has to say, and feel like I can connect really closely to kind of his perspective, his message, all that. So uh if you've not heard of him, definitely look him up. He's got some great material. But anyway, part of his class, he kind of spoke on the I guess the thought that we expect our people, as firefighters, to, if you have problems at home, to leave those at the door and to show up with your A game every day. And he just kind of went on with that conversation of basically saying how, it doesn't work like that. Our minds don't work like that. And anyway, not to steal anything more of his speech, I'm just going to kind of wing it off of that. But I I can't express to you how true that is, and I say that because I very much so have lived that life. And so I think, kind of starting out, I think you could look at that at two different ways. There's two different aspects of that conversation. So one, you have the people that are dealing with problems at home, that show up to work and are expected to leave those problems at home and just be clear-headed and ready to go with work. But you also have people that have problems at work that we're basically expected to leave that stuff at work and not bring it home, or not really expected, but it's in our best interest and in our family's best interest to leave those things at work and not bring your problems home. And that's not a fire service thing. That's everywhere. Anybody that has a stressful job, or dealing with a boss they are irritated with, or employees that they're irritated with, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what job you work. If you're bringing problems from work home and allowing that to affect your family, then that's a bad thing. So, once again, that this is kind of centered around fire service, and I say that it's fire service family trying to help other fire service family, but really it's just family. And really, a lot of this stuff I talk about can You drop the fire service, or you drop the word firefighter or lieutenant or captain or officer or whatever else, and just add in whatever title or role you are playing in whatever place you are at, and it's the same. So kind of where I'm going with those two areas is I've lived both of them. I've been deep in both of those situations. I have been a part of crews and been at levels of rank in my career that I did not enjoy going to work. And so, you know, it was it was a struggle, and it was a really an intentional act to leave that stuff at work and not bring it home. And I mean, even today, as a company officer, there are a lot of times, and especially right now with the world we're living in, I have a lot of frustration right now that I have to figure out a way to leave at work and not bring home, so that I'm starting a day at home frustrated right out of the gate, and irritated and all that, because it's not fair. It's not fair to my family. It's not fair to me either. But so, there's obviously that side of the coin, and but the opposite side of that coin, like I said, are the people that have issues at home that either are expected to just leave them at home and not bring them to work, and show up with a clear mind and ready to go, or they're the kind of people that are trying to deal with it all by themselves and hiding it, and not being open about it. And so, I've also been both of those spots. So, I have been through some stuff. I life life has been heavy on me a lot, and I say that as in past tense. Of course, we have a lot of stressors and things like that, but some of the things that I and my family have went through in years past have been a struggle like nothing I would ever wish upon anybody. And really, I guess another reason that this has been kind of heavy on me lately is because one of those situations is going on right now. My wife and I just got some news a little over a week ago that it was a punch in the stomach for both of us. And we had a little bit of a conversation about this a few days ago, finally, because I think both of us were so beat down and irritated with the news that we didn't want to discuss it at all. And we just kind of, we dealt with it as much as we had to deal with it so far, but we didn't dig into it deep with each other because we unknowingly felt the same way. It was such, and like I said, and it's the best way I can explain it. It was such a punch in the stomach, and just knocked the breath out of you, almost feeling that we didn't know how to address it any better than what we did. And so, you know, and I wish could go into that further, because a little explanation would go a long way. And I appreciate that, as far as I know that probably me giving vague descriptions like that isn't as helpful as it could be, but it's just one of those things where it's a area that we are currently through and dealing with, and I don't want to really put myself or my wife or kids or anybody else in a situation that something that I'm saying on here can be used against us. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But really, it's something that we've fought through and fought through and fought through for years, literally years. And it seems like we're getting close to some finalization, some closure, and something just out of nowhere comes and completely shuts it down. And and basically stalls everything to where we're looking at a couple more years of the same stuff. So during this time, within the past week, we've had that going on. I've had some home projects that have kind of went sideways and caused some irritation between my wife and I, and dealing with some frustrations at work, with the whole virus thing, and just personalities, and there's just so much going on right now. Last week I was in a place where it's like I don't want to be anywhere. I'm not happy anywhere right now. And so, I went back on shift Saturday after having 6 days off. Took a little time off to get some stuff done around the house. So I was off for 6 days. Went to work Saturday, and I was just beat down, and the guys I work with could obviously tell because they brought it up at breakfast, and I didn't want to talk about it because I am a very open, honest person, and there's not really anything I don't want to talk about, and especially if it's going to be something I feel like can help others. But when you're still living it out, sometimes it's just better to I just don't want to deal with anything else right now. I just don't want to talk about it. Basically was the mindset I had, and I kind of know I I didn't really give anybody a cold shoulder. I hope I wouldn't do it on purpose, but I just kind of skimmed over and was very vague about kind of what was going on. And so, I was struggling that day, and just so happened a couple hours later we get a fire, and it was literally the first fire we've had in months and months and months. And I'm embarrassed to say that because you know firefighters, well, that's what we do. And people that don't understand the fire service, or people that work in busy places that you know I don't know, I feel like sometimes a lot of these numbers get stretched out. But it's people that watch fire department shows, they think that's all we do. Well, if you're lucky enough to be in a department area that you do that all the time, I hope you appreciate what you got, because it's just not like that a lot of places. But anyway, we've had a really cold stretch, and that's affected morale, and it's it for those of you that don't know, there's nothing that helps morale around the fire department better than a good structure fire. And sorry for saying that. It's not like we wish damage to people's property. It's not like we wish people to get hurt or anything like that. But that's our job. It's what we do. That's what we train for. That's why we are what we are. And so, yeah, I'm going to admit to liking to fight fire. It just the way it is. Anyway, so we get a fire, and it really helped to kind of snap me out of things, kind of help me get, maybe kind of break through the past the threshold of where I was at. And then the next day came home, finally started wrapping some projects up. Been fighting a pool that would not get cleared up for weeks, and it finally started clearing up that day. And so I had 2 days in a row that were really kind of helpful as far as breaking me out of where I was at. But kind of, and I know I'm going through a rabbit hole and going a long way around it, but it's giving you some ideas of different things that people are experiencing, either home, at work, or dealing with it at work and bringing it home. And so I think me as an officer, going kind of telling on myself here a little bit. A learning experience I've had here pretty recently is there was a a short time period where I was kind of getting frustrated with some of my crew members because just I wasn't getting a lot of help with training or just being, I wouldn't say involved because I don't really have a issue with getting my crew members involved if things are going on, but it's just, I've asked for help of kind of starting some things, coming with ideas, just whatever, just bringing something to the table so that it's not always one or two people doing it, starting it, whatever. And so it was just had a couple shifts in a row where it got to me, and I was frustrated, and so I put a post out on social media, and it basically said, I don't expect perfection, but I do expect effort, I think is kind of what it said. And to be honest, I truthfully, truly, honestly, I did not mean it in any hurtful way, any way that you would say that I stabbed somebody in the back, anything like that. I'm not that kind of person. But I'm sure subconsciously and under the surface there were some I don't know, some feelings that came out that should have and could have been dealt with in a better way. So anyway, I put that out, and a few days later I basically kind of got notified by one of my crew members that I just trying to kind of think of how to say this. He was upset, very upset. He said he wasn't mad. He was just hurt that I wouldn't come to him and ask him if there was something going on and get to the root of it instead of bringing it out on social media. And again, I never call anybody out by name or anything like that, but I'm sure there are times where I could be a lot more tactful in my ways. And I am fairly new as an officer, and I have a lot of learning and growing to do. So hearing this was another one of those punch to the stomach moments. It was like hearing him say he wasn't mad at me, but it hurt him. It was like, oh my gosh, what a jerk I am. And even though I didn't mean it that way, it, it it's ridiculous that I handled myself that way, and it was disappointing. And I made sure that I called him, and we had a conversation there because I did not want it to lay over any longer than it was. And I apologized as much as I possibly could, and we kind of talked it out and all that, and it's all good. But it really opened my eyes to see that maybe I should have given this person the benefit of the doubt and pulled him into my office, or whatever, and say, there's something going on, we're out here doing something, and you're kind of not involved in all this. What's going on? Is there something I can do? Something. Just ask before you get upset that somebody isn't buying into something for the day. I guess first of all, is this a new problem, or is this a constant problem? Things like that affect how you deal with stuff, obviously. But I realized very quickly that I need to start getting more information before I start dealing out criticism or judgment, I guess basically is the best way to say it. And so, this particular day, this guy was struggling with something. He had something very heavy on him that he was dealing with, and he just, like, basically what he said was he just needed a day to kind of think about some stuff. He wanted to go work out by himself and throw some weights around by himself and just deal with things in his own way. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing. I don't care if we have something going on that, some training or whatever. If somebody in my crew comes and tells me, man, I'm dealing with some stuff, do you mind if I just kind of work out by myself, or kind of hang out for a little bit and let my mind clear up, anything like that. I as an officer, if I'm not okay with that, that's a problem. That is a big problem, because it's not why I'm here. I'm here to make their lives better. I'm here to put them in a spot to best succeed. And if I'm taking that chance away from him to kind of clear his mind and get right, then I'm not putting him in a place to succeed. So, like I said, it really opened my eyes to say, I need to do better. And so that right there kind of, it really ties into what I'm kind of getting at is, are we expecting people to leave their problems at the door and show up to the firehouse with 100% effort and 100% clear mind and 100% focus, when they have something that could be their worst moments of their life going on at home? And I'm telling you right now, if that's what you're expecting as a leader or officer, that's wrong. It's wrong to expect that. And if that's true, then I almost feel like you haven't been in that spot, because if you have been in that spot, you know that you cannot expect that from somebody. I have literally, I thinking about this show, I had no idea where it's going to go. When I first started doing these podcasts, I try to make myself notes, and I don't think I ever followed anything. I tried to write a couple just topics today just to make sure that I hit a couple areas, but especially a topic like this that I'm so emotionally tied to, I just really don't know where it's going to go. But that's fine with me. I'm much more. I would rather be just organic and just let things go where they go, as opposed to being so scripted and structured that I don't really touch on anything that I'm emotionally tied to, because I feel like if I have emotion in it, if I am tied to it through life situations and all that, then it's going to be much more. Uh, you're going to get a lot more out of it. People that are dealing with these things are going to get a lot more out of it. So anyway, I apologize if I'm hard to follow sometimes, or if it seems like I'm kind of getting off topic. I'm just kind of letting the conversation go. But where I was headed was, I I went through a stage of several years where I was a single parent of 4 kids, and many stages through the years before that of being basically a single parent, of one kid, of 2 kids, of 4 kids. I had a lot of times where I was it, basically, and I don't, to to give a little backstory, just a description. I don't have one of those life stories that I could lay out in an hour. I don't. I could fill hours and hours of these podcasts with my life story, and so it's it's very diverse, I guess I would say, as far as the things that I've had to deal with. So, I literally have dropped kids off at daycare, before shift, and sat there in the parking lot after getting back in the car after dropping them off, and just cry. as much as I don't want to admit that. I was struggling just to make it. Living the life of a firefighter and the schedule that we have, it's hard to it is hard to be a single parent as a firefighter. And so, you definitely don't want to show any of this to your kids. So you're obviously not going to do this around them. So it's like, as soon as I had that time away that I knew they were gone, I couldn't hold it in anymore. And I definitely didn't want to bring that to work, which is exactly where I was about to head in the next couple minutes. It's like, that was my only chance to just break down. And I did it a lot. And it's funny because I remember one of my kids just around the same time asking me if I ever cry, because they have never seen me cry. And I'm like, I obviously didn't say this. I basically said something, yeah, I mean, everybody cries. It's okay to cry. I gave that answer, but I'm literally thinking in my head, I do it all the time because I can't help it. I can't barely keep things together right now. It's all I have to take care of things and to keep things together when I'm around them. And so any chance I get to where I feel like I let my guard down, it just breaks loose. And so, that was one of those times where it's like I showed up to work just with nothing left. A job that can kill you, a job that you're expected to have 100% focus and show up with your A game and all that. And I had nothing left as soon as I walked in the door, because everything I had was used up from my home life. And on some of these years that I'm talking about, I was an officer. I was a lieutenant. I wasn't in charge of my particular group like I am now, but I had the rank of somebody that was potentially in charge of a crew any day, potentially in charge of a very serious, stressful incident. And I was doing it with my tank on zero every day. And so I, I'm just kind of, I'm not bringing, I don't bring up these stories, and I will not bring up any of these stories for sympathy or admiration or anything like that. I bring them up because I know there are people out there that have been through it as well. And more importantly, I know there are people out there that are living this life right now, that are pulling up to the fire station, putting it in park, and just breaking down and trying to keep things together so that they can go inside and make it through another day. I know it. And I just want to really try to emphasize that if that's you, don't do it alone. One of my biggest issues as dealing with life and all this stuff is kind of in the heat of the early years of all this. I did it alone. I didn't say a word to anybody, and it really affected people's opinions of me. It affected people's image of me, because they didn't know what I was dealing with at home, because I never said a word about it. All they know is this guy shows up at work in the mornings grouchy. He doesn't want to say a word to anybody. He's disconnected. He just seems like somebody that I don't want to hang out with. And that's not who I am. But that's who the situation turned me into. And without the knowledge of those guys knowing what I was dealing with at home, knowing that I was completely exhausted because I had two small kids by myself, raising them by myself, they didn't know to give me some leeway. They didn't know to ask if I needed help, anything like that. And that was another time. I literally was raising a 4-year-old son and a 3-day-old daughter by myself as a full-time firefighter. And yeah, I had help on my days that I was on shift, obviously, but that life pushed me to limits that I didn't know I could ever get to, and I didn't know that I would ever make it past. And it's funny because, you know, God was preparing me, because the life I led years after that just got harder and harder and harder, because it was just of what was going on. But I had been kind of prepared for those times. And so, I'm sitting here today. I obviously made it through those times, and not to say that we don't have struggles now. I definitely am not saying that. I have so much to grow and so much to learn, and so much to get better in every aspect of my life. But I just know how that feels. And so kind of where I'm going with this is, if you are with somebody that is dealing with some things, make sure you're checking on them. Make sure that you're finding out, kind of updating with, just making sure everything's okay. Oh, they're just our way of life, our career. It's inherent that we bring issues home. It's inherent that we're going to have problems that stem from work, and that could be even subconsciously. But that's just the number. It's just the way it is. It's the way of life for us. And so check on your friends, check on your fire service family, your coworkers, whatever you do. If something seems off, if they seem different, check on them. If you if you feel like, something is different with him or her today than it has, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe it's not that they just chose to be grouchy that day or that month or whatever else. And so, we can't expect problems to stay where they are. And I haven't really touched on it at all much, but it kind of works the same way backwards as well. Like I said, I've had some stressful incidents and some irritations and all this stuff at work, and if I allow that to come home, it just it's a recipe for starting issues at home for no reason, because they aren't issues that should be started. It's just you begin the day irritated or agitated or angry or whatever else. And so small things that should just kind of pass by turn into big things really quickly. And so uh, I'm not a spouse of a fire service or first responder. My wife is a nurse, so I somewhat kind of know how that is, but I'm sure spouses of first responders have a lot to deal with, and I empathize with them. I'm sure that's a big job, just dealing with all that. And so, you know, there are some things, in my wife's past that are traumatizing for her. And so, like I said, she's a nurse, so really there isn't anything that I can't bring to her that she wouldn't be able to deal with, just personality wise, because she handles some of the gory stuff probably better than I would. Like, being a nurse, they see just as much, if not more, than firefighters do. And so, that part of our lives, I should be able to just share whatever and all that. But there are some instances that have been very traumatic for her, that certain things that I could bring up could be triggers to that, and I don't ever want to do that. I don't want to cause any kind of trauma, any kind of trigger for her. So that's kind of caused an area of, for me, that I don't bring up a lot of incidents, because I don't really know what will trigger it, and I don't want to be that cause of it. It's not that I want to keep it from her, but I also don't want to be the cause of kind of having a negative effect on her emotionally. So I'm just kind of saying that as a kind of a generic, if there are situations like that that cause you to not be able to get some of that stuff out, then maybe you need to seek other avenues, counselors or close friends or somebody from work that you can talk to and get it out there before you bring it home. So, just I hope that I haven't been all over the place. I really think there's a lot here to digest. I really think there's a lot here that can help a lot of people, because I know there are a lot of people out there dealing with some stuff, dealing with life, and they need to hear that there are others along with them dealing with it. There are others that have made it through. There are others that know how they feel. And so, you know, I just want to get some thoughts out there, want to share some of my experiences, share some of what I've learned, share some of my thoughts. And so, if you are somebody that is struggling through life for whatever means that is, if it's your fault, if it's just you're stuck in a situation that you have nothing to do about, it doesn't matter. It's something you are dealing with. And so I just want to offer my inspiration of saying, keep pushing, keep going. You will make it to the other side. If you have kids that are depending on you, or family members that are depending on you, or whatever, if you are the rock, so if you're somebody's rock, and their safety or their life depends on you keeping it together, I know the weight that carries. And I just want to really say that it seems like sometimes you cannot carry it anymore. You cannot carry it any further, but you can. You just have to keep going. You just have to keep driving, keep pushing. If if you need to get away, go hide in the backyard, go sit in your car, go when you're by yourself for a few minutes, just break down and just completely lose it, and let it go, and all that. If that's what you need, then you need to do it. If that will help you kind of release some of that stuff so that you can pull it back together and put your game face back on, and get back in there and take care of the kids, or whoever, whatever else, if that's what you need, then do it. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't care if you're a 16-year-old kid, if you're a 30-year-old woman, if you're a 60-year-old man, it doesn't matter. If you are struggling to make it through whatever you are making it through, and it takes some times of breaking down and just clearing out some emotions to keep going, then do it. You also have got to reach out to people. I cannot tell you the difference it made me the day, and I will always remember the day that I finally opened up about some things that I was dealing with one of my closest friends on the department. And come to find out that that was probably one of the best things that I could have ever done. And not to put words in his mouth, but possibly for both of us, because come to find out, he was dealing with a lot of stuff as well that he didn't want to open up with anybody about. So neither one of us would have gotten any help if that conversation wouldn't have happened. There are things that we cannot do by ourselves. We cannot do it. We're not made to do it. There are things that have been put in our lives that push us to reach out. They are designed to make us ask for help. That is the purpose that they serve in our lives. Because as we reach out, in the act of reaching out, we not only get help for ourselves, but we are simultaneously offering that help to others. And that it's a crazy, crazy thought. But just kind of looking at the time here, 40 minutes in, I feel like, since I brought it up, I want to kind of go deeper into that story. This was the time, kind of I said earlier, when I had two very young kids by myself. I was struggling by myself. It was hard to make it through the things I was going through. And I finally went to one of my close friends at my station one day and told him about it. And like I said, he started opening up about some things that he was dealing with. And just, it was almost like an epiphany of, you know, why would I want to do this stuff by myself when I have people here that care about me, that want to help, at the very least want to listen, want to offer advice, want to lend a hand when they can. Why would you want to do that? And at the same time, not even trying to be helpful to him, I helped him to know that he wasn't alone as well. And it just helped me to realize that we cannot truly get the help that we need until we are open and honest enough with others to let them know what's going on in our lives. If nobody knows what's going on in your life, you will not receive the help you need. It just won't happen. You have to be honest about what's going on. And so, just coming to that realization was, I mean, it's amazing just to see how something so simple as to tell a little bit of your story went so far as to help myself, but to go and help somebody else, it 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 just really opened a door in my life of saying, I'm done with keeping this to myself. I'm done with it. I don't have anything to hide. I'm not doing anything wrong. So if there's somebody out there that needs help with something, or needs to know that they're not alone, that I'm going to be the person to tell them that. I'm going to be the person to tell them, hey, I kind of heard that you're dealing with some stuff. I've been there too. And so kind of let me know what I can do to help. And I think that was such a huge moment in my life, and a very big turning point, because since that moment, I'm not somebody that just spills my guts to everybody, anybody. There are a lot of people I work with that probably don't know one single thing about those bad years of my life. Basically, a dozen bad years of my life. Over a decade of my life was a fight and a battle and a nail clawing struggle to make it to the next day. That's a lot of years. Back then that was a third of my life that I lived like that. And even more eye-opening is that was my entire kids' lives, both of them. At the time I had two kids, and really even, as I gained two foster kids, their entire times with me was a struggle until we got past that. And yeah, like I said, we still are struggling with some different things that they're still kind of lingering from that. But that large amount of time, that time period, was such, it just, it felt like it was never going to stop. And so I just want to encourage everybody out there, if you're listening to this and you have something you're struggling with, if you have something you're fighting, if you're the person that is fighting because of somebody else's bad choices, or if you're the person that is putting others in that position because you're making bad choices, it doesn't matter. You have got to do the right thing. You have got to keep pushing. You have got to keep working towards the good, working towards the solution, working towards getting past whatever it is you're facing. And as you're going through it, or after you've gone through it, you've got to use these situations to help others. Why would you want to waste the sad times, the bad times, the hard times, the struggles you went through? Why would you want to waste those by keeping them to yourself, when you can use those situations to help others that are either dealing with the exact same thing or dealing with something very similar? Why would you want to keep that to yourself and rob yourself of helping others and rob others of that assistance? It doesn't, it's not worth going through those things if you don't use them for good. So I also want to encourage those of you out there that have been through things like that to speak up when there are opportunities arise to help somebody, or if you're somebody still going through it and you see an opportunity to maybe open up to somebody else that may be going through something. Now, these are times in our lives that change who we are. And more importantly, these are times in our lives that we have a chance to change who somebody else is, to change somebody else's course, to help them steer their life in a better direction. And we as humans, I don't think there's a better opportunity that we could ask for than to be a part of somebody's story in a positive way. It is an amazing, amazing thing. And so I feel like it's probably a good kind of spot to stop. I don't want to kind of start talking in circles around this. I don't want to keep you all longer than I already have. I knew that this could potentially go pretty far. I actually tried to record it yesterday morning, but I just didn't have enough time before work. And this was not a conversation that I was going to rush through. I was not going to, I didn't want to do that. So anyway, I really appreciate anybody out there that's sat through this and listened to it. And I hope that I've said something that either helps you or kind of brings some things to mind that you haven't thought about, or that, or just some good conversations to maybe have with somebody else. And once again, not to walk in circles, but I want to really, really emphasize this. I want to encourage you to share your story. I want to encourage you to reach out for help. I want to encourage you to keep pushing forward, to keep making the next right choice. And I want to encourage you to reach out to others that you feel may be struggling. Don't expect people to deal with stuff at home and to be able to just leave it at the door and come in and act like nothing is wrong. Come in and act like they have a clear head and able to focus intently on whatever the task is of the day. It's not going to happen. We can't turn that off whenever we want. So I thank you for listening to this. I know that I'll probably get into some more of this later, and just kind of whatever hits me. You just never know. I also hope to have some more guests and kind of have some lighter conversations as well. I don't want it all to be like this, but it doesn't matter if this is helpful to somebody. That means more to me than I could ever express. And so that leads me with this, and I will leave you with this. Please share this. If you know of somebody that could use this, please share it. If it means something to you, please let me know. It it means so much to me to hear from somebody out there that may be getting something from this. So really, if there's anything that I've done that has helped you, please let me know. If there's anything that what I'm doing can help somebody that please share it with them, and just try to keep spreading the good word. I I enjoy doing this. I enjoy it more than I would have ever thought, and so I will keep going as long as I can, and hopefully I can do some good in the process. So I appreciate your time again. Thank you. Look forward to being back on and talking about something else next time. Until then, thank you very, very much. Be safe and take care of each other.